Recording from the One More Pour studio, where every pour comes with a story. This is the Dram Amateur Podcast. And here's your host, Jason.
All right, welcome back to the Dram Amateur Podcast, the show where we explore the stories, spirits, and sips that make the world of whiskey, bourbon, rum, tequila, mezcal, and beyond so exciting. I'm your host, Jason, and I'm thrilled to have you here for another pour of a great conversation. Before we dive in, don't forget to connect with me on Instagram at Dram_amateur, as well as YouTube and Facebook under the Dram Amateur Podcast to stay in the loop with exclusive content and updates. Whether you're a seasoned enthusiast or just starting your journey into the world of fine spirits, this is your spot to sip, learn, and share. So pour yourself something good, get comfortable, and let's kick off another unforgettable episode of the Dram Amateur Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an episode that I have been fired up about for quite some time, because today I'm sitting down with someone who didn't just start a whiskey company. He helped bring whiskey back to a city that hadn't seen it in over a century. My guest is Tim Piersant, CEO of Chattanooga Whiskey, a brand that went from fighting for the right to distill to setting the standard for what modern American craft whiskey can look like. We're talking experimental distillery, Tennessee high malt, pushing boundaries, and doing it in a way that actually means something. Oh, and along the way, craft producer of the year twice. But what really stands out to me is this. Tim just doesn't build whiskey. He builds identity, he builds culture, and he's helped shape what Chattanooga means in the whiskey world today. So, Tim, I appreciate you being here, man. Let's get into it, and welcome to the Dram Amateur Podcast. How you doing today?
Great, man. Thanks, Jason. I'm impressed. It was a clean intro.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I love writing those. It's a lot of fun. It's something I started doing a while ago, and it really kind of helps connect me and make you feel special when you join the podcast, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say I felt like Scotty Scheffler stepping up to the first tee at the Masters for a second, which everybody knows that I don't deserve that. So, but thanks for the nice intro.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I gotta say, I saw you about 4 weeks ago. The look is different, man. You lost the mustache.
So funny story. My kid, I have two daughters, and I was picking one up. They play sports, so I was getting one of them from from track practice yesterday, and she's like, Dad, I think it's time. I think it's time for you to shave your mustache. And I was like, why? She goes, I don't know. She was like, you're looking a little ratty or something. She said something that was like, oh, dang. You could have said any word except for ratty or whatever she said. And maybe she said mangy or something. But I was like, all right. Well, so I picked her up today and she was like, whoa, you shaved your mustache. And I was like, yeah, well, you said it yesterday. She goes, I didn't think you were going to listen to me. So she goes, you look like a baby. You look 20 years younger. So anyways, it's never whatever my facial hair is doing is never permanent. So I got to keep everybody, including my family, on their toes.
That's funny.
My mustache will be back tomorrow.
I shaved my beard one time and just left the mustache, and my wife's like, look too much like your dad. Look way too much like your dad. And I threatened because it's all gray now. I threatened to color it. And she's like, nope. You're my silver fox. Do not do it. So I try not to mess with this very much because I don't want to get backlash for it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I can't, I just, facial hair is like more of an annoyance to me, but so I normally just have some facial hair. So I normally don't take the time I just don't like messing with hair. So even my head, I get my hair cut like 3 times. This is fresh. Like this is 2 weeks ago. Get my hair cut like 3 times a year. I mean, we were talking about this too the other day with one of my kids, maybe my younger one. And I was like, from like age 15 till age like 30, I only shaved my own head. I never went and had a real haircut, which I think the first time, my wife and I have been married for over 20 years. So we got married when we were 23. So she went like 7 years with me just like shaving my own head, and then I let it. And so the first time I got like an adult haircut, she was flabbergasted. She was like she was like, I feel like you just like all of a sudden became an adult, which is, of course, a huge insult, but whatever. So now I get my adult haircut like 3 times a year. I've been going to the same girl. She says I'm by far her worst client. So anyways,
I love it. I love it.
I've never looked fresher.
There you go. So fresh and so clean, right?
I've never looked more immature than I do right now.
You're all good, man. You're all good. Well, man, I want to say thank you too, man. The founders event was my first one going. I'm not far from you. I'm in North Georgia, so we come up to Chattanooga quite frequently. Visit the distillery a number of times. And that was my first founders event. It all like lined up to vacation coming up there, no work, all those things. So I was really excited to go and get to connect with some friends of mine from the Bourbon Beards and Belvedere's podcast. I hung out with them and then got to have a fantastic event alongside you and the rest of the community there in Chattanooga. And I'll tell you what, man, you guys put on a hell of a little party, great samples and everything. So thank you for first of all, thank you for doing that. I think it's great for all of us to connect, but I love what you guys do on the founders releases. And I'm excited, if I remember right from what you said, next year is the first year that it'll be all Chattanooga distillate. Am I right with that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the 1816 Solera barrel. We've been making that recipe. We have, of course, in true Chattanooga Whiskey Tennessee high malt fashion. Of course, the rye is not raw rye; it's malted rye. So it is our spin on that recipe. But that barrel will be full. It was already this year. It was approximately half full of Chattanooga Whiskey distillate. But next year, it'll be full of Chat whiskey, and so I guess we're gonna figure out kind of a new package for that. I mean, obviously, we love all of our packages. We love the Founders package because it's particularly unique to the rest of the lineup. But nice, there it is, 14th anniversary, baby.
Yep.
But we're gonna find a since it's the 15th anniversary, it's the first time it's 100% Chat made, including the past, the 1816 Solera barrel. We're going to find a cool new way to present it.
That's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to that. I've already had some buddies that bought the new bottle and nothing but high regards. Awesome. So kudos to you guys for it.
Thank you.
I really liked it for sure. It's fantastic. I haven't cracked mine yet. I'm waiting for buddies to come over. So I'm like, I'm not cracking it till y'all come over here. So get your butts over and we'll do a whole Chattanooga event that night. So it'll be fun.
I like your 1816 cast there.
Yeah, it's funny. Just a quick story about that. So for those of you that didn't see it, so this was something that honestly I had sought after for quite a while. So when I first got into this, I learned about you guys, understood the story, and there was a lot of hype behind those bottles just to have one, the history behind it, the stories behind it as well. And it took me a while to find one, but I ended up finding one through a friend and traded some bottles with them. And I said, I really wanted that to be part of my collection to show on the shelf. So I have a few more bottles other than this one. I have a few store picks and stuff like that from Chattanooga and around the Atlanta area. But yeah, I love having that because again, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and it's cool to have that as part of the display.
Yep, some history there.
There is. So let's get into some questions because I want the audience to learn a little bit more about Chattanooga Whiskey. I want to have you share some of your story with everybody as well. And I wrote some pretty in-depth questions just to really give my audience a different kind of insight into you as a CEO of the company, what you guys have built there, and kind of some of your philosophy behind what you guys do on a daily basis to make whiskey for all of us, which I think is amazing. So let's start off with the easy ones, right? For anyone hearing the name Chattanooga Whiskey for the very first time, what's one thing you'd want them to know before they ever take their first sip?
I would say that what's gone into it, what the thing you mentioned that we won Craft Producer of the Year, not once but twice, and I, especially today with the amount of products that are on the market, there's so much stuff out there that's good, but the level of craft that goes into it is just not that deep, and or maybe there's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of NDPs out there, so maybe the brand that you're drinking doesn't produce the product at all themselves. So if anything, I want whoever is sipping Chattanooga whiskey for the first time to know that it is authentically made by us, and I want them to know that that is a complex product. The point of differentiation is Tennessee high malt, right? So that's we fought hard not just to exist, but we fought hard so that we could continue to blaze our own trail, which is extremely cliche, but coming out and being in Tennessee and coming out with your own product in Tennessee, your own style of product in Tennessee is a pretty risky thing to do. So I would love for them to know that Chattanooga Whiskey fought to create our own unique style, Tennessee high malt, and that the people behind it have put we have the best team, the best craft distilling team in America. So you're asking me to choose one thing, and I think it's probably, if anything, it's I think I actually mentioned this at the founders. I have my probably too long speech, but I talked about product integrity there, and there's a lot of brands out there that I think they care more about their brand than their product integrity, and so I want people to know the depth of and the level of product integrity that goes into our product. Obviously, there's a lot of things to choose. Like, I want them to know it's Tennessee high malt. I want them to know it's made with roasted and toasted grains. I want them to know that we had to fight century-old laws in Tennessee in order to be here. But I think at the end of the day, the product integrity is really the terminology I want to use, because that represents our team really, really well. It's basically the care, the love and care that went into making this product.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you mentioned the craft producer. So you guys won in 2023 and then again this year. With that now notoriety behind the brand, the award that's there, does it feel different a second time around?
It feels a little bit more yeah. I would say we're excited to. It's like the Bulls winning. Well, obviously it wasn't back to back for us, but I'll take 2 championships in just a few years. It's definitely increasingly validating, and it allows us to market it even more strongly. It's kind of like, in 2023, we were excited to let people know that we were the best craft producer in America. Of course, you can't just nominate yourself that, right? You need somebody else to say it.
Yep.
You need somebody, you need to win some sort of a legit award to point to and say, hey, look, we didn't say it, they said it. But when you get that twice and you're going up against some really amazing brands, amazing craft brands across the country, it allows you to be a little bit bolder in proclaiming that, like, hey, look, we know we're the best in our craft, but now that we have both, like, not one but 2 of these awards to back us up, we have, like we've been saying, best in craft again has been the messaging we've been using, and our hard work, as the industry ebbs and flows, seems like right now it's ebbing a little bit. We've been a part of it flowing for a long time. Our hard work has never stopped. and the level of innovation that we put into our, obviously, again, product integrity, but also, engineering and innovation. We over-engineer everything. And if you look at like our release calendar and you go and you go to ChattanoogaWhiskey.com and you look at our press page and you look at the products that we've released and that have been talked about, or just go into our whiskey to explore our whiskeys and look at what we've released, out of Riverfront, and look at what we've released out of Experimental. And, I would say, if anything, we continue to kind of outdo ourselves and ramp our level of craft up and up and up. And so, yeah, I guess winning the second time makes me more strongly, say that we are the best in our craft in America.
That's awesome. Yeah. And talking about the Experimental, I just saw a post about something strawberry coming out soon, which I'm kind of excited about. So, oh, you got strawberry? Sure. That's awesome, man. That's fantastic. I saw it and I was like, I'm like, what is this? We're going to have to take her out to Chattanooga and figure it out. So,
actually, I'm sipping on it. It's got ice in it. So it looks like
I'm excited to hear about that. So May 7th, right?
This is a gin right here. So
very, very cool. Very cool. So I'm gonna pour the 91 to drink along with you while we're hanging out and talking. But you mentioned the award, right? And I wonder, and being the best craft distiller and being nominated that way, what's the response like from the other craft distilleries? Is it really a community with all of you as craft distillers where they're supportive, they congratulate you guys? And obviously they try to compete and one up you, right? That's what anybody should have to do in an industry like that. But there's always the community aspect that you respect everybody and what they're doing. Is that like that, or is there a lot of competition and maybe not so nice? I don't know, support. Maybe not so much support from other brands.
I'll say this: I do think that there's a lot of camaraderie in our industry. I think. We're definitely not all sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya all together, which is because we're focused on our businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and right now, you have a lot of distilleries that are struggling to survive.
Yeah.
And so, while we are a member of the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, Tennessee Distillers Guild, founding members actually, along with a handful of others, and we do participate in that association, and we're members of a couple others. It's not really one of those things. I think when you're there and you're accepting the award, yeah, it's super cool. People are very congratulatory, but otherwise it's back to business and it's head down. And I would say, stylistically, Chattanooga Whiskey has worn blinders a lot. When we got into this, we said, okay, this is we're going to build our own unique story. And yes, there are inspirations out there, right? So none of us would be doing any of this without some level of inspiration from other brands. So, I can point to, I'm not necessarily point to another brand, but I won't hesitate to say that this brand over here, like, they do great work, right?
Yep.
But ultimately, we're trying to write our own story, and so maybe too little do we pay attention to what's going on around us. I mean, definitely not. I'm not attending the big events and networking with the other distilleries. I like them. We're great product makers, and we have a jam-packed product release schedule, and so I just want to make sure that we can get those things into the market and that people know that they exist, and that I can connect with our customers. So there's not a lot of time, honestly. It just doesn't feel like we're palling around a lot with our competitors. So no, I wouldn't say. I mean, our I wouldn't say that we had anyone reach out to us and say, "Hey, good job." But that's just kind of, that's not by insult, or that's not an insult. That's just the nature of the beast. We're all trying to do what we can. I will say that depending on the brand and depending on what I know about them, I mean, when you see that they win a certain award, you say they earned that, And I do think that if you, as a customer or consumer, if you go out and you ask other distilleries what they think about Chattanooga whiskey, the guys that are actually in the craft, the guys that are making their product, all that stuff, I feel pretty strong. I'm pretty confident that they would say that they have, that they admire the work that we do, and they probably think of us. I mean, as if not the best in the craft, they think of us as one of the best in the craft.
That's awesome. No, understood. Yeah, I mean, you guys are a business at the end of the day, right? Keep your head down and keep going forward with a busy release schedule, and that happens. So,
Yeah.
nothing negative at all about what you said. It's more of like you guys are all hardworking, dedicated to what you're doing, whether it's in the craft industry or somewhere else. So it's just focused, right? Head down, focus, get to what you guys want to do. It's that hit your goals. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a respectful answer. And he just was really curious to see what the community is like on that side of it, and see if everyone just calls you and like, "Hey, Tim, congrats," picks up the phone all the time. So, but that's understandable.
Yeah. I don't know if I know when Grant went from brewing to distilling, he did and does have a desire to collaborate in the distilling community in a way that maybe the brewing community doesn't necessarily collaborate, and that's where doing our collaboration with New Riff came in, and so we definitely there are some opportunities where we want to collaborate, and we want to be friends with our peers, especially our great craft peers like New Riff is a good example. And of course, there's the whole tie-in with Brian Sprance and Grant McCracken working together at Boston Beer. So that's a really fun story. But I think that's the key word. The key word is story. And Grant, as our chief product officer, is kind of also our chief historian. And anything as we every product we release, everything that we're working on has to further the depth of the Chattanooga whiskey story in order for us to spend any time on it. And so it's pretty cool the way it's hard work, and sometimes it seems like it is complicated, and the consumer oftentimes doesn't want something that's so complicated, right? They want something that's very easy to understand. And so we're always kind of battling internally. I say battling, not bad battling, but good battling, trying to figure out how to take these products, these concepts that are so complex, and deliver them to the consumer so that they understand what it is, and so we can continue. Well, now that you look at Chattanooga Whiskey going into our 15th year of business, well, I guess this coming October will be the complete. Since 15 years since founding, the story has just grown deeper and deeper and deeper, and so it's we're just going to continue to keep our heads down to try it and make that happen. And if there's opportunities to collaborate, with somebody in our industry and publicly be friends, then we will. So
I like that.
Yeah.
you in past podcasts, I've listened to several podcasts with you on it, and you've told your story a lot to a lot of individuals. I'm really wondering, with everything you just went over with winning the awards, with being collaborative in a craft industry, what's one piece of your journey that people still fully don't understand about where you started and where you've come to today, 15 years later?
Oh man, I mean, there's obviously a business aspect to it that's just hard to tell, right? There's just really there's no time to tell it unless someone wants to dive into the business side of things. And I think when you hear about trying to figure out the best way to say this, but if you think about like best craft producer in America and what goes into that, you kind of hope that a part of it is some type of bootstrapping, right? Like you want bootstrapping to be a part. How do they bootstrap it? Where do they get their money from? How did they get off the ground to even get this thing started? And I would say that most consumers that know who Chattanooga Whiskey is, they do not know the depths of our bootstrapping that happened in order to make this thing. So it truly was, when you think of a grassroots effort, and I mean it was, Chattanooga Whiskey is absolutely as grassroots as it gets, and I would say it was absolutely as bootstrapped as it gets.
Right. So when you talk about that, you guys have been now for 15 years. Is that 15 years including that time you put all the effort into getting to that point, or did you start even before that 15-year mark where you're at now, right? 15 years ago, were you doing efforts even way before that mark?
No, I mean it happened almost immediately because when my co-founder and I, there's a lot of people that don't know I had a co-founder, by the way, but that was just kind of an unfortunate. I mean, it was very fortunate that we were together and that we started Chattanooga Whiskey together, and then unfortunate that we didn't continue on together. But when we started the company, we discovered the history of whiskey in Chattanooga pre-Prohibition, and we instantly, overnight, threw it on Facebook and created a Facebook page. And instantly we received a lot of local attention, which kind of pretty quickly spun into local media attention, which quickly spun into us doing interviews and then starting to tell the beginnings of the story of how we were bringing whiskey back to Chattanooga before we had anything, before we had any assets, before we had a bottle or a label or anything. And so it kind of it blew up overnight. So when I say we started in October of 2015, I mean we had done no work prior to that. Zero work. It was kind of like it was a holy cow moment. I can't believe there's this history here and nobody has done anything with it. And in a classic, couple of, ADD dudes just being like, we got to own it now. Nobody else has it. Nobody else has done it. Like I just remember, combing through online and just being shocked that no one was working on bringing a distillery back to Chattanooga in 2011. It was, the whole thing was just shocking. So we basically rushed the idea to market via Facebook, and the rest is history.
Looking back on that, how much of a whirlwind was that?
It felt like, I mean, my gosh, it was a huge whirlwind. It was a great time to do something like this in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The in the 2010s, there was a big entrepreneurial boom, and there was a incubation, like a business incubation boom that was happening, and it was the first wave of kind of. I feel like there's a lot of people that live in Chattanooga that are not from Chattanooga. Actually, the majority of our 40 employees are not from Chattanooga. But back in the 2010s, people that were trying to start businesses in Chattanooga, it starting a business because of all this incubator capital and people setting up these VC funds. It became really popular, and our city became, because we had the fastest internet in the world, our gig city, it became super popular. They really pushed that. There were some VC funds that really pushed, hey, come to Chattanooga, we got the fastest internet in the world, blah blah blah. And so you had a lot of locals that were looking to reinvest into Chattanooga businesses. And we were at kind of the beginning of that. And so the timing of start wanting to do something like this. Now, a lot of it was tech, right? Yep. But for Chattanooga Whiskey to be this historic manufacturing, and by the way, that's what Chattanooga was. It was an old manufacturing, city. And so for this historic manufacturing story to revive this in downtown Chattanooga after 100 years, we got a lot of attention, and we got a lot of multi-generational business owners and successful entrepreneurial families in Chattanooga that wanted to be a part of this and that wanted to invest in this. And so in Chattanooga being a mid-sized city, it was pretty easy to get the attention of the local news, right? Because it was like, they're either going to cover a cat being stuck in a tree or cover Chattanooga whiskey. So we got, all the news outlets, and we kind of just felt like we were riding a wave. I felt like I was riding a wave. We were feeding the communication animal, which was Facebook, pre-algorithms, by the way, to our knowledge. This was back when Facebook was just an open kind of chat platform or friend platform, and so it was really easy for us. We rocketed to 5,000 people following us, and when we over just a couple of weeks, and when we were posting and talking about things, it felt like the whole community was talking about it, because we'd have 100 or 200 or 500 comments on just locally of people that were following along what we were doing, and it was and we were talking with them, and just like they were talking with us. That was our marketing. Our marketing was connecting with Chattanoogans and telling our story. And yeah, it was then when it became very real was we launched Tennessee, we launched Georgia, we launched South Carolina with 1816, and we took a mezzanine debt loan of $50,000 in order to basically produce our first 20 barrels out of MGP. Okay. And that was not scary at all, because we had purchase orders to cover that.
Oh wow!
So that was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Best way to possibly start a brand with the cash flow positive out the gate, but that wasn't always the case, of course. And then the two times it got really, really serious early on is when MGP called us, when Lawrenceburg Distillers of Indiana called us and said, hey, we've been acquired by Multigrain Products, and we are no longer selling 20 barrels or these small allotments, essentially, to small brands like you guys. and we had to raise capital to buy over 1,000 barrels.
Wow.
Which we did exclusively with mezzanine debt, paying 12% interest. That was that was very serious. And then the other part is when we decided to focus on changing the laws, we had investors lined up that were not going to invest unless we changed the laws, and that was stressful. But when the laws got passed, when House Bill 102 was passed, we did our first capital round, and that's when we had to have an operating agreement, and that's when we formed a board, and that's when we had these shareholders, and that's when the fiduciary responsibility to investors went to a whole new level, and it was time to now look. Hey, the law's behind us. Now we've got some cash. We paid off our mezzanine debt, and this is where the rubber has to meet the road. We have this whole thing we've been doing from 2011 to 2013 is about building the first distillery in Chattanooga. We got to do it. This is where we do it. What's it going to look like? What are we going to make? That was a very challenging time for Chattanooga Whiskey to make the rubber to meet the road. So those were the two times that were very, that in that whirlwind. You asked, was it a whirlwind? I think of having to buy all those barrels and then closing our first capital round after it post law change and having to build our first distillery. Those were two of the scariest times in our past.
I can imagine. I'm surprised they made you go from 20 to 1,000 barrels. I mean, gosh, there's not a number in between that would work for them. I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah, well, what we did? That's a good question. There might have been a number that worked for us in between, or that they would have gone for, but we built a pro forma that basically said we need to buy 4 years worth of inventory so that we can build the distillery, make our own product, and then replace it.
Gotcha. Okay.
In that pro forma, basically, spit out a number of barrels that we needed, and it was 1,200. So yeah, we inflicted our own pain on that one.
Hey, you ran a business successfully. You're here today, so you got to look back. And yes, it may have been a whirlwind, but you did something right. So that's definitely kudos to you guys. One last question around that topic. I'm curious. Before all this started, right? What did success look like to you back in the day, right? What were you doing on a daily basis that you're like, okay, I'm successful today? So what did it look like before the whiskey industry for you?
I worked with my dad for 8 years. Love my dad. We get along great. He's Chattanooga Whiskey's #1 fan. I was commuting. He owned a business. We lived in Chattanooga. I was born and raised in Chattanooga.
Oh, that's cool.
But he owned a business in North Georgia and Dalton.
Okay.
And which was for me was a 45-minute drive. And as a young college grad at 23, from 23 to 30 years old, that was a tough commute for me. And I worked in a variety of roles for him. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the experience in manufacturing and just kind of just being a young kid and learning how to live life. But I wasn't really like it wasn't feeding my soul, and he knew that, and I wasn't gonna try. And the goal, even for him, wasn't necessarily for this to be a multi-generational family business that he owned. And but I was, it was cool to be in manufacturing and to learn, cost accounting and learn estimating and then learn the business development side of things. So I definitely got my teeth kicked in a few times. And my dad's like the anti-nepotism, boss. So there was no, I definitely had to prove myself down there in order to, earn any respect. And so it was a good experience. It just, there were some days where I was trying to be a good employee, and I was not productive, and it did not make me happy. And so I had some friends that we were always talking about business ideas, but none of them, ever took. And I also never had the same feel. I didn't have the same feeling with any of those ideas that we ever talked about that I had with Chattanooga Whiskey. Like I remember exactly where I was when the whole, when this discovery was made. In fact, it was my co-founder that made the discovery, and me and my father-in-law had just built a pergola off of my garage in my backyard. I'm sitting on top of my pergola, and I'm staining this pergola, covered in stain. By the way, terrible idea. Don't stain anything yourself ever. And my co-founder called me, and he's like, dude, did you know that there were more than 30 distilleries in downtown Chattanooga before, pre-Prohibition? And I just remember when we talked about it instantly, I've never had that feeling before. That was like, the word risk didn't even enter my brain. It was just we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta do this. It's time to do this. And it was refreshing. And honestly, you asked what success looked like. Well, I wasn't making very much during this time working for my dad. And I know that's relative, but just trust me when I say I wasn't making very much. So it didn't take very much to get me to take a risk to go into doing my own thing. And my wife and I wanted to have a family, and I didn't want to keep making that drive. We bought a house in downtown Chattanooga, in the heart of downtown. That was a huge risk, by the way, because it was before a neighborhood had kind of, evolved. And we were planting our roots in downtown Chattanooga. I wanted to work there too, right? I wanted to make a difference in the city. Like I felt like I was when we bought this house, moved to this neighborhood, but I was leaving every single day, right? And so we had a low cost of living, and it just didn't take much. And I was like, you mean with this? You mean basically it ended up, this didn't happen at once, but very quickly, when we got a purchase order on a napkin from a distributor, our best distributor, because they're family to us. It's Athens of Chattanooga, Athens Distributing. And when we had a meeting. They were like, man, this is awesome. We want to be a part of this. We didn't even have anything. He wrote me a PO on a napkin before we even had anything. And to this day, 15 years later, the owner of the distributor is one of my best friends. So, but I did the math, and it was like, eventually I was like, shoot, I can replace my, salary. So why not? You know what I mean? Even if I replace it for a couple of years, why not? And so it was pretty easy to make the leap, financially anyways. And, cause we didn't have a lot to lose, and I wasn't, my soul wasn't being fed, any longer down there. And I remember my dad having to sit down. I told him, I'm like, all right, listen, you're going to see an article. I was working for him, and we went and did an interview with the Chattanooga Times Free Press. And then I was kind of thinking I was like, this will be buried in the back of the paper, whatever. Well, then they say, hey, this is going to be the front page this is going to be the article. This is going to be the article on the front page of the business section. for like Sunday, and then I was like, oh man, okay, wait, I gotta have a conversation with my dad. And so I went down and I told him, and I said, hey Dad, you're gonna see an article in the newspaper this coming Sunday, this weekend, about Joe and I starting a whiskey company. And he just sat down in his chair. He was standing up. He sat down. He's like, all right, I'm gonna need some time to process this. And because he was in ministry for 20 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Before he even got into industry, and but it was, I don't know. There's a lot of kind of funny memories back then. But it was a super long way of saying I can't necessarily speak to my successes. I feel like the most successful thing I ever did was, land my wife and then land we bought a small starter home. The city was trying to recruit kind of young professionals into certain areas of downtown, and it was like I said, it was all we could afford, and that was basically doing that. Those two things were like the most successful thing I had ever done, at that point in my life. So.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I'm gonna ask you a question about Chattanooga because you mentioned Chattanooga a lot, and I can, you being from there, you have a passion for the history, the city. I don't even live there, and my wife and I are like, can we retire there? Can we get a second home there? Like, it is literally our favorite city that I've ever been to. We feel comfortable there. We know the city in and out. We want to be part of it. So hearing you and your passion behind that, you can tell there's a lot to it. But there was a question I asked, and you kind of answered it already, but I kind of want to spin it a little bit. I wonder if you grew up if this was Grand Prairie, Indiana, or some other small town across the U.S., right? Would a whiskey brand like this ever exist? I mean, how much does Chattanooga and the history behind that, your passion for that city, mean to the success of what you guys have built around that?
So I've asked myself this question a lot over the years, and there was, especially again, there is a huge passion for the city that the city has for the city. The city loves it. The city loves itself. The city probably really started loving itself I would say at the turn of the century, basically, like late 90s, early 2000s. We had redone the riverfront where the Tennessee Aquarium is, and then there just started to become this huge pride for Chattanooga. One of the first breweries in Tennessee was built down there, down near the riverfront, and Big River Brewing. Sadly, that is no longer with us, but they were part of the changing the laws, actually, the brewing laws in the early 90s. And so I know that the reason I don't think that this would have worked like it did anywhere else is because the passion for the city, in the history of the city, in the revitalization of the city, it provided a very unique investor network. Very unique. Both, monetarily and culturally. These are the Chattanooga Whiskey would not be what it is today if it weren't for the type of people that invested into Chattanooga Whiskey. Now, none of these people have ever been anything but really silent investors. They've shared some board seats, but even that was fairly informal. But the amount of counseling, advising, championing, sideline championing and advising and counseling that happened throughout that, there's no chance I could have pulled this off. No chance. And the name is unique. In fact, been fortunate to develop some cool industry relationships over the years. And one of them was the former CEO of Bacardi.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember exactly how we got connected through I think a variety of industry connections. And you know what? I think we might have gotten connected through like LinkedIn or something, which I don't know, something weird, whatever, it doesn't matter. But he came to Chattanooga and he hung out, and then we became friends. And then he came. Now we're still 100% independently owned, but he was very intrigued with what we were doing, and he actually went on to start a whole other brand portfolio that was tremendously successful and sold it. And I won't go into that, but the guy has, it's an understatement to say he's had one of the most successful careers in the spirits industry of any one person that I know. And one of the things that he was intrigued about, this guy's all about branding. And when actually, in fact, he was the vice president of marketing before he became the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, brands that are named after cities have limited potential, but Chattanooga does not. He said, because there is a folklore that is in the name, and it can live beyond basically these parameters that most other city-based brands struggle to survive outside of. And so I think it was a combination of this unique name, this folklore, and this industry that existed here for a long time that these families stuck around, and these multi-generational families that are very wealthy, their sense of pride for the city was tremendous. And so there's that. Now the city itself, there's a lot of other things that are really important, maybe more ancillary, but it's a mid-sized town, so you can be popular, and you can monetize off of the popularity. It's not like New York where you're basically like in a small country.
Yeah.
And you can have some news, but nobody's gonna join the club, right?
Yep.
Well, it was kind of cool because you can get 500,000 people's attention here. And you can monetize that. You can monetize 500,000 people attention here. So and then look, it was the Outdoor Magazine named it the best outdoor city in America 2 years in a row. So it's just it's mountainous. It's part of the kind of the Appalachia. It's all part of Appalachia, which is a great distilling story in and of itself.
Yep.
We're in Tennessee, which Jack Daniel's has already paved the way for everybody in the world to relate whiskey in Tennessee. So they're just, I don't know, there's timing, place, people. There's a lot of other great stories out there in other states, but I do think that that Chattanooga provided something that I could not have done in another city.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Listen, I don't even live there, dude. We come up 5 to 7 times a year. We don't even live there, and I have the passion for that city as much as you do. I can't say as much as you do. You live there, but I understand your passion, and I understand the mindset of the city and the culture of the city. And as much as we come up, like, it feels like second home. And I mean, for somebody just to not even live there and for it to feel that way, like, we drive up and you hit the streets and you're like, you're home. You visit a coffee shop and everything slows down. It is a very unique and special place, no matter what part of the city that you're in. And I understand what you're saying from that perspective because of the small amount of time we spend up there. So to me, it makes sense. And I encourage anybody that hasn't experienced before, go to Chattanooga, experience it for yourself, immerse yourself in everything Chattanooga has to offer. Go visit the distillery, see everything. It's a place that I think that once you go one time, you'll understand everything you just said. You'll understand it fully.
there were these guys that I was hanging out with, having a bourbon with today, and a couple of them are from L.A. And well, in our house, we call it L.A. Lower Alabama, but in this case, L.A. as in Los Angeles. And the guy had, he just moved here to Tennessee, moved into our neighborhood, and he's like, man, he goes, have you spent much time in L.A.? And I said no, and he goes, it's so fast paced, everybody has somewhere to be all the time, right? He's like, that's what I love about Tennessee. He said, I love the fact that when I'm walking out to get my mail, my wife says, see you in 45 minutes.
Because you're going to bump into a neighbor that starts talking to you, or someone's going to drive by. Yep, that happens. Yep. No, it's cool. That is really cool. Let me spend a little bit of time around the experimentals piece of it, because you talked about a little bit about the experimental distillery too. I'm curious to know, at like what point did the experimental distillery stop being like R&D for you guys and really become like a creative engine to the brand for you guys? Because you guys do a lot of experimental releases. And it's been like this now for quite a few years. So like, when did that change for you guys?
So it is still R&D for us. We've done over 500 experimental barrels there. So we're doing 50 a year.
Wow.
We've always done 50 a year. So, a big part of our story is that first 2 years, which is the first 100 barrels. So because that's where Barrel 91 came out of. Barrel 91 came out of the first 100 barrels distilled at the experimental distillery, which is the recipe that we selected to scale up to the Riverfront Distillery and replace MGP, which officially, after it was aged to straight bourbon whiskey, it replaced it in August of 2019, and we became 100% authentically Chattanooga made. And but in the first 100 barrels, that is where a lot of our signature, what we call our signature recipes, Tennessee high malt recipes, were born from. So I'll just give you some examples. The fifth batch ever released out of the experimental distillery is B005. It was that was our wheated bourbon release that we did, and that code lives on at the Riverfront Distillery because we do a lot with B005. Meaning we scaled it up. And so we have a variety of wheat malt recipes, but one signature wheat malt recipe, that bourbon recipe that we feature in Bottled and Bond, and that we feature in single barrels. A lot of our Bottled and Bond recipes actually are single barrel recipes. And we have a lot of blending power with. And then same thing, if you look at B007, that was the seventh batch to ever be released out of the experimental distillery. That was our rye. And that's what was graduated up to 99 rye. And when you look at B008, that was our malt. And our single malt was B008. That was the first single malt we ever did. And we scaled that up. We do a lot of non-bourbon American whiskey recipes, including a lot of American single malts, and a lot of just malt whiskeys that are greater than 51% malt. And so we ended up scaling up our first 10, which even included our smoked malts. Like our B004 was our Scottish style.
Okay.
That's what featured peated malt in it. And so that first 100 yielded the first 10 batches that we released out of the experimental distillery, which then became the first 10 that we scaled up to Riverfront. And really that, and it, by the way, experimental also is technically the birthplace of Tennessee high malt, where our own trademarked style of American whiskey and bourbon whiskey. But we never stopped doing 50 barrels a year at Experimental, and we never stopped exploring the world of malt, which even includes a handful of gins that are whiskey-based gins that we've done. And now we have really over the last few years started exploring a lot more infusions in those recipes. So we're really excited about the demand for those infusions and where that could go. But I mean, yeah, because we've been distilling 50 barrels a year from 2015 through 2026.
Wow.
By the end of this year, we will have done 550 experimental barrels out of that location.
Wow.
So if you take a tour at the experimental distillery, you'll probably hear our tour guide say, "Welcome to the only standalone experimental whiskey distillery in the United States." And speaking of craft, and speaking of something that not a lot of people know about Chattanooga Whiskey, I mean, that's a level of craft, that's a level of experimentation.
Yeah.
That is, I'm sorry to our competitors for saying this, but it's unparalleled. It's unparalleled, the work that has gone into there. And this isn't just exploring, what happens when you put a barrel in a different part of the rick house. This is going deep into recipe development and into the world of grains and roasted and toasted grains, specialty multi-grains, and yeasts and barrel finishes and toasts and chars, etc.
Wow.
So it never stopped being an R&D facility, but it has definitely taken on a life of its own in terms of because of how many products we have released out of there now. For the first handful of products, well, they were just a variety of American whiskeys, and that's what they were, right? I mean, yes, very different in terms of the industry, working with different, smoking different hardwoods, etc. We've done applewood and mesquite wood and cherry wood and all that stuff. But now that we've released, nearly 50 batches of experiments that have a variety of recipes and infusions, and it's almost like, what can you do with a mash bill? What can you do with a whiskey mash bill? Well, you can do a lot with a whiskey mash bill. Just go to our website and look at our experimental batches. And so, especially these infusions too, like coming out with Intergalactic Comet Crusher, our alien bottle. That's what we call it internally. We call it the alien bottle. Like stuff like that has really, and it has its own unique label. I mean, it's on the Made in Chattanooga, Tennessee bottle, which we did to, obviously be proud that we're 100%, that we're authentic. But the experimental label is its own beast, and that those products don't leave. Now we're trying to get them out into distribution, but they're like 1 to 3 barrel batches. So you really can't get them into distribution. So, and now, I mean, the experimental distillery is one of the top tourist attractions in Chattanooga, and you have 30, 40, 50,000 people a year that are coming through that location, and they've become fans. They follow along, and we don't beat people over the head with our newsletter. Most of the time, if you get a newsletter from Chattanooga Whiskey, it's because we're releasing something special. And so, yeah, it's kind of just taken on a life of its own. But we do still regularly use it as it is still the testing ground for a lot of stuff. Even though we've scaled more than 30 recipes up over Riverfront, which is a lot, it's still the testing ground.
That's cool. Yeah, I can't tell you the number of times I got phone calls. Jason, you going to Chattanooga? Can you pick up this bottle for me? It's experimental. I'm like, yeah, let me go grab it for you. Awesome. I can't tell you the number of times I've muled bottles back for people because they live too far away, right? And they see the release and they want it. So I like what you guys do, right? And I think that's what, honestly, I think for me, I think that makes it pretty special too, right? I think it makes it pretty cool that you do small batches like that. It gets people to come visit you guys, see it, right? Maybe everybody doesn't experience it all the time. You don't have the distribution for it, but you're also not making big batches. But then you have the community behind all of it that shares it all with people, right? So if there is something they like, so there's that part of it too.
There's a lot of benefits to having the two locations. It's also culturally challenging sometimes to have two separate locations. Just making sure the team is all one unified team, but the benefits from a storytelling perspective, from a exploration perspective, the fact that we're distilling on a 100-gallon pot still there versus a column still at Riverfront, getting to see how products change from environment to an environment, or from still to still.
Yep.
Production process to production process. However, you could say it a million different ways, but that's another, again, that's a depth of craft that most distilleries don't have, that we've done for a long time, and it's really fun to I don't know, it's very educational. It's super educational.
Yeah, no, agreed. Let me ask about the anniversary blend, which again, you guys just released the 14th anniversary blend a couple weeks ago. It's described as a time capsule. If someone were to open that bottle 20 years from now, so let's just show the 14th anniversary one here. If someone were to open this bottle, say 20 years from now, what do you hope they understand about Chattanooga whiskey today as they sip through this bottle and experience it for the first time?
Well, if hopefully the necker, the hang tag is still intact, and they can and they take the time to read it, because they're gonna be so overwhelmed with the level of education that they receive out of that. All of our products are a time capsule. Really, that's why, like, I don't know, somewhere in my boxes of Chattanooga whiskey, I have an original, bottle of everything we've done. And when I think,
that's cool.
When I think of B005, I remember, so many people being like, "Oh, you guys did a weeded? That's amazing!" Of course, it wasn't. To me, it was just a part of our exploration. It wasn't like we were trying to be a weeded bourbon or anything like that. But it was a point in time that I remember that coming out, and founders won't always be the same. In fact, I would say probably more than most distilleries, especially the big guys, we celebrate our evolutions, and that includes, the fact that those even exist, that founders even is born out of a Solera barrel. The Solera barrel. Oh, there's three of them, right? There's the past, there's the present, and the future. And by their very nature, they're evolving all the time. And they're white oak, they're charred on the inside, they're different sizes. Those are each one of those things is an ecosystem.
Yep.
And it's seen a variety of different ages and different toast and chars come through it, and obviously 1816 is always, it's that's that recipe. 91, that's that recipe. Blend of different toasts and chars, and then Infinity has more than 30 non-bourbon recipes in it.
Wow.
I call it the land of misfit whiskeys, because we make all of these recipes, and a lot of the times we don't know what we're gonna do with them, and so we're like, to Infinity, that's what we're gonna do. And so it's gonna, I think the 14th anniversary is gonna represent, first of all, I hope if anybody has an opportunity to try 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, well, they all taste very different from one another, and which is fascinating, considering you're just blending different percentages of those Solera barrels together. That tells you how much those things evolve.
Yeah.
I don't know if I kind of can only think in terms of my perspective, and and to me, it's, it kind of represents, like, I feel like the last year has been one of the more challenging years for this industry, coming off of essentially the COVID bubble that was burst, and how, like, we are still innovating and fighting through this COVID bubble. So I'll probably remember that for our 14th anniversary, but yeah, I don't know. That's all I can really say is, it's a 45, 24, 31 blend. It's going to be the last year that has MGP in it. There you go. So there's a part of that time capsule that you won't be able to get in any other products moving forward. So
Oh, well said. Well said. All right, few last questions. We're going to go through rapid fire. So rapid fire questions. So I'm going to throw them out at you, give a quick answer before we close it all out, and have some little fun with this. So what's one decision that kept you up all night?
I'm going to say the release of Chattanooga 91.
Okay.
When to do it, the fact that it was going to replace it, and that we built 8, so that 1816 bottle sitting on your shelf, we built that brand up to 18,000 cases, and we stopped it. We stopped it overnight because we wanted to be 100% Chattanooga made. And we went to a totally new recipe. We went from a 3-grain, high rye, mostly raw, a little bit of malted barley product, to Tennessee high malt, something that nobody has ever heard of or seen before. And that transition from sourced to authentic, I could have killed the brand over it. I could have killed the brand, and I didn't. So there's also been some other business stuff, right? Like we've been through multiple capital rounds, the timing of those capital rounds, all of that. Obviously, going through a co-founder breakup. Like, there's been a lot of things. Let's just be honest. I don't sleep very well, and so everything keeps me up at night. But when I think about the risks that we've taken, it was almost like, hey, we got to a really good spot. We made a lot of big investments. There was a lot riding on the line, and I was literally, it was my own. Really, it felt like my own decision. Grant obviously was my mastermind behind a lot of it, but it was ultimately my decision to say, stop the presses. We're coming out with our new product. And it turned out to be tremendously successful, but it absolutely could have killed Chattanooga Whiskey overnight.
No, understood. Yep. Makes sense. Mad respect that you did that, because I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. So kudos to you for taking that leap of faith. So what's a whiskey you made that you misunderstood at first?
Well, we've made one. We tried. All right, so I'm gonna try and keep this short because it could be really, really long. We didn't have anything to base our flavor profiles off of in the beginning, and so we were basing it off Grant and I at the experimental distillery from 2015 to 2017. We're just drinking white whiskey off of the pot still and going, is this good? I don't know. Is this good? Okay, I guess this is good. Okay, let's go this direction. This is good. Let's go this direction. And we were just basing it off of whether or not we thought the white dog was good. Yeah. That's all we had to base it. That's all we could base it off of. And there was a point in time where, because we were pushing malt, that Grant and I thought, let's be all malt, including an all malt. Let's actually be an all malt bourbon, because it doesn't exist. Essentially, we were calling it. Actually, fun fact: it went from Tennessee malted bourbon to Tennessee high malt.
Oh, wow! Okay.
And we never released Tennessee malted bourbon to the public. It was never because we wanted it to be greater than 51% malt, including the corn.
Okay.
Well, off of the still, malted corn was good. Out of the barrel, malted corn was bad.
Oh, wow.
So, and the reason we chose, and we did do some malted bourbon, but the reason that we chose not to scale it as much as, the reason we even chose Tennessee high malt is instead of Tennessee malted bourbon was because malted corn was, corn is a huge part of the foundation, right, of a lot of our ingredients. And the malted corn was costing us 10 times what raw corn was costing.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I literally just looked at Grant and I was like, I don't think we can afford this. Like, I don't think we can afford to do malted bourbon. Like, I really don't think so. And man, holy cow, that was God watching after us, dude. That was unbelievable because it's musty. It's musty out of the barrel.
Really?
Yeah. So fortunately, we didn't go heavy that direction. We did make some barrels, but we didn't go heavy that direction. And so there was a learning experience there. And then I'll tell you this, we did an aquavit. The aquavit is really interesting.
I had it during one of the tours that I was there for. They were pouring it at the bar.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I had a sample of it.
What'd you think?
It was interesting. It's like a lot of licorice like feel
Right.
to it, right? Yeah,
Right.
But it was really unique. I liked it. I mean,
Yeah.
you mix it in the right cocktail or something like that. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, I'm not like I don't feel like I misunderstand a lot of our products because I think I'm pretty open-minded about the fact that we have this such a large innovative side to us and experimental side. And it's, to be honest with you, we have a lot of blending power with all the different recipes that we do. If your raw ingredients are good, it's hard to mess a product up. Like it's hard to make a bad product with good raw ingredients. Like it just is. And so that's why I'm not like, oh, this is, if I'm drinking somebody else's product, I'm not like, this is terrible, because I mean, the reality is it's not. It might not be as good, but it's probably not terrible. So I don't feel like there's any products that we've made other than the lesson about malted corn that I don't think we've come out with anything. Do I like super kind of licorice flavor profile forward products? No. So do I think it's a high quality product, the aquavit? Yes. And there's a lot of people that absolutely loved it, but there's certain, maybe, like, I'm never going to come around on olives. You're never going to get me to come around on olives for my whole life, right? So now licorice and olives are not in the same category as me. For me, but yeah, I think like I love our Scottish styles. I mean, there's a lot of people that I think, a lot of consumers that are friends that's almost been like a bridge to Scotch for them.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I can see why, and that's kind of part of why we did it. But for me, it's like I can drink 2 glasses of Lefroy, but most people can't even sniff it. So if you're a bourbon lover.
Yep.
But so I don't know. I'm pretty open-minded about all that stuff. I don't feel like there's any big misunderstandings between me and in any of our products, but I am regularly learning because I am not a distiller. We have 10 of them, and I just walk around and look and listen to what they do. I could probably distill a batch, but there is a 50-50 chance that I burn the place down. So.
What do they say? Leave the like the knowledgeable work up to the experts or something like that. Yeah, let the experts handle it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I understand. All right, man. One last question for you before we close out. If something really to reflect on, if someone were to pour Chattanooga whiskey for the first time 50 years from now, What do you hope they say about the people who built it?
Man, everything that it was that they are everything. And then I promise you, I'm not, this is not like I'm not thinking of myself when I'm saying this, because I know that everything that makes Chattanooga Whiskey unique came from the artists, basically the artisans that made it what it is today. And that is Grant, that is Tiana, that is Rich. I could go through our entire production team. I'm not going to do that, but our experimental employees that are so passionate. We have the people that will work at Chattanooga Whiskey. It's a mindset. I mean, they believe that they are part of a movement, and even the ones that, now we have a great tenure. We have a lot of employees that have been with us since nearly the beginning. But even the employees that have been with us for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, even they feel like, even after the early movement days, they still feel like they are part of a movement in Chattanooga. And we have the best, we have the coolest team in the country in terms of craft distilling. And I think they should look at them like they're geniuses. I think they should look at them like they changed the game. I mean, Grant changed the game in distilling, and Tiana has changed the game. Not enough people, by the way, know about Grant and Tiana. And trust me, if it were up to me, they would be sitting here in front of you and not me. But you be my guest and try and ask them to sit here, because they're going to say no.
I was gonna say, I would love to have them on. That would be dope. I would love that.
Maybe they will, but it is tough to put them in front of. They're both beautiful people, by the way, but it is tough to get them in front of a camera. They really are. They're creatives. Yep. It's a whole company of creatives. Rich Abercrombie was the first employee that we hired, and Rich designed the Vote Whiskey campaign for me, and he's an owner in the company, and he's a creative director to this day, 14 years later.
Wow.
By the way, Tiana's an owner, Grant's an owner. The very first salesperson we ever hired, Sean Lawrence, he's our vice president of business development. He's an owner. So, these people changed. They were critical to the community, and they changed the game of distilling, and that's what I hope. I know that the longer we go, the more people will hear about how great our team is.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm inspired by what you guys are all doing. I thank you for coming on the podcast and spending time with me. Opening your doors to us during the founders event too, and having us in for even distillery tours outside of that event. I thank all of your team for the passion that they do. I've been on multiple tours, sat at the bar many times, and every single person I've ever come in contact with have been absolutely fantastic. And so it's kudos to you and your team for what you guys are creating. And I think that the city itself rallies behind you. I think the entire whiskey and bourbon community rallies behind you guys as well. And I encourage you guys, just keep doing what you're doing, because you guys are doing amazing stuff. So thanks for coming on the podcast, Tim, and sharing some of your story with us.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate the time and the thoughtful questions.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of the Dram Amateur Podcast. A huge thank you to Tim from Chattanooga Whiskey for joining the podcast, and to all of you for tuning in, sipping along, and being part of this amazing community. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment to like, share, and leave a review. It helps me grow and reach more spirit lovers like you. Until we get to share one more pour together, Cheers.
That wraps up another episode of the Dram Amateur Podcast. Thanks for being part of the community and the conversation. Until we get to share one more pour together, cheers.